Uh, not, can't remember off the top of my head.
All right. So, welcome everyone to the advisory committee meeting of Tuesday, October 21st. We have 4 items on the agenda tonight, discussions of 4 different warrant articles. Article 2 regarding collective bargaining, Article 15, LGBTQIA and Pride Month, Article 17 regarding tree preservation, and Article 18, a resolution about preserving, recording and preserving the recordings of meetings. If there are members of the public who wish to comment on any of these items, drop your name in the chat and Harry will call on you.
Sean Lynn Jones.
Thank you very much. I have a very brief comment on Article 17. Substantively, it's great. The petitioners have devoted a lot of time, so has town staff, and I have no substantive objections. I just want to help out the advisory committee here by cleaning up a couple of little things in the text of the article as posted in the agenda packet for this meeting. First, the usual deletion of the stuff at the end, like the explanation and or needs to happen, and stuff at the front, like the names of the petitioners and voted needs to be put in the proper form. I assume you can take care of that. I also think that Jack Schleifer's title is not urban forest manager, but urban forestry manager. At least that's what he uses in his email. And it's currently forest, not forestry, in operative paragraph 7. So let's put the tree back in forestry and fix that typo. But the bigger typo seems to be in operative paragraph 3. If you look at the third sentence, it's not really a complete sentence. It seems to be missing a verb. The existing conditions plan, along with their condition and rationale for removal, and reviewed with the design review committee and the public at a public meeting. Okay.
Can I interrupt for a second, Sean? Because that looks to me like it should be entirely removed as a scrivener's error because of the next paragraph, which follows.
I believe so, although it also could be redundant with the sentence that precedes it.
Right. I mean, I was going to ask during the discussion whether that was just a scrivener's error. I'm sorry to interrupt.
To point it out now before it got to town meeting, and you know, the usual confusion might ensue. And so I have to go to another meeting. I leave it to you to resolve these weighty issues, but I wanted to help you clean up the language here. It may be that in the second sentence of that paragraph 3, if existing conditions were inserted between the and the plan, that would make things clear, and then you could delete the third sentence. But that's all I have to say. You know, I hope that there's unanimous agreement for this article at the advisory committee, everywhere else, and in town meeting, because it really has been, you know, reflects a lot of work by the petitioners, and you know, an important problem is being addressed here, and town staff has been deeply involved and is on the same page. So we might really have a true consensus. Thank you for listening.
So thank you, Sean. The first 2 things that you mentioned are routine part of the cleanup that we do as part of publishing. The question about the title and the other we'll try to resolve during the discussion.
It's not the first time that there's been a typo in this job title, but you know, I did double check with the emails that the urban forestry manager is sending, and that's how he lists his title as forestry. He also just passed his, you know, license exam too, to become an official, you know, arborist tree warden, you know, person, which is great, good news. And so At some point, you'll hear from Jack Schleifer about that, but I just came from the tree planting committee where he announced that, information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn Jones. Before we move on to our agenda for tonight, I have one quick announcement, which is that our body is now comprised of 29 members rather than 30 as of 2 days ago. Sunday, Ben Birnbaum has stepped down from the advisory committee. And, despite the fact that I offered to give him back his bottle of, Knob Creek whiskey, it wasn't enough. So the moderator has made no announcement of his intentions with what to do with that extra spot, but we'll keep you posted when we know, and we will. By the time the spring budget season rolls around, we will clearly want to find another person to add onto the schools subcommittee. So, keep your eyes and ears open, I guess. So let's move on to warrant article 2. Chris, are you going to present that?
I think Harry Bors did the write-up, so he should
Harry
present.
Bors,
Sure, right.
you go
I should
ahead.
bear the brunt of it, right? Okay.
This is
Yeah.
Harry's night.
All right. I'm going to point out that Ann Hespraga is here with us this evening, and so I won't go into excruciating detail. She can answer questions and spackle in the details and correct my errors. So I will start with there's a ratified contract, and it's asking town meeting to fund it. And this is a firefighter's contract with Local 950. It is a 3-year agreement for FY 25, 26, 27. The wage increases are 2%, 2%, 1.5%, respectively. There are, of course, other things in this agreement that add to the price as well. Within it, there are increased educational incentives, and in the packet is the whole breakout, so you can see how this works. What we did not ask is what percentage of the fire force has these different sorts of degrees or not. Just, give us a sense of the loading there. There's also has been increase in the 5-year tenure step at 3% each. And there's a very interesting component, which is the sick day buyback. So right now, if you've accumulated sick time, when you go to leave, you can cash out up to 500 hours. There's some people who have more than that. Traditionally, it seems that most people within the force tend to use what time they have. So how this actually plays out over time remains to be seen. But the new structure is that you get to cash out 1/3 of what you have banked, up to you can apply that 1/3 up to 2184 hours. So if any hours beyond that 1/3 redemption rate doesn't apply to. So this is a significant change. Part of the reasoning for all of this is that we've known that we've had overtime issues from time to time in the fire department. Some of these things are unavoidable. People have injuries. People get grave illnesses, whether it's a cancer or something else. And those things you don't really control for. That's when life inserts itself, perhaps unfairly, but it does. Other things may be controlled for, at least incentivized, and one of those is calling in sick. So part of this would be create an incentive for people not to call in sick, but maybe try and save some of their time. In addition, there's two other incentives, one more so than the other, and that is within this contract, there's a 2% weekend differential rate. For whatever reason, I'm sure it's just, random statistical clustering, but sick time or sick use seems to ramp up on the weekends. And so adding 2% differential rate for the weekends might bring some of that down. They've also expanded the sick note requirements, so it's also going to include deputy fire chiefs. So that rolls in there as well. Things that are not financial costs that are also part of this agreement is that the town, assuming that this gets funded and it goes forward, will step back from the skeleton day provision that they posited earlier in the year. If you'll recall, they were looking at the cost of overtime, the financial stress on the town, which is significant and touches everything, and looked at there may be times when we are, say, summer months, you can move around easier, and people are calling in sick, that we may change how we staff the fire apparatus. And this was not something that was well embraced by the union, as you can understand. So the town will step back from that. And on the union side, they will give up some of the grievances that they now have pending. So those are just sort of add-on items that are part of this. I think that's pretty much it. When we looked at this, we were struck that this agreement is both reasoned and reasonable. I suppose to a certain extent, this is sort of a 3-year experiment to see if any of these incentives work toward holding down overtime costs. We will know. Time will tell, and hopefully we don't get back to the point where we're grappling with that, or that the town feels that it wants to reintroduce the skeleton manning again. But that would not be part of this 3-year agreement. The town has agreed to step back, and I will leave it to other members of the subcommittee or Ann Braga to fill in any details or make corrections.
Ms. Braga, do you have anything to add to that report? I know you'll be available for questions, of course.
For Ann Braga, HR Director for the town of Brookline. Harry got to most of it. One thing I will just clarify is that skeleton days is not the same as the flexible staffing that we talked about in the spring. And that skeleton days was a provision that was added to the fire contract in 1971. And it provided that if other town employees were told that they did not have to report to work, so think COVID, snow day, that kind of thing, that the union would get an additional either day's pay or a day off. And since it hasn't been implemented since 1971 and the original need for it, given the current work environment has changed, that was one of the things we asked to have removed. And Harry, to answer your question, because I looked this up from our previous meeting, of our 150 or so firefighters, 75 have some sort of continuing education post-high school. 5 have sort of shorthand taken a few classes, but are no longer pursuing actively an associate's or a bachelor's. We have 47 with bachelor's degrees and 22 with associate's degrees. So it's a lower percentage than if you look at police officers on the other side.
Okay, still about half.
Right, and they are, as we discussed, they have to be degrees related to firefighting and not like, as sort of the commentary was around, it's not basket weaving.
Right, questions or anybody from the subcommittee want to add anything before we go to questions or comments from the full body?
The only thing I'd add is, it's estimated that the total rollout cost over the 3 years for this is $4,827 and, 800, I mean, $4,827,894.
And just a note that 2.3 million of that will be back end
Mayor, would you
on,
do me a favor? Could you bring
just a note that $2.3 million of that 4.8 is back end loaded as effective on the 30th of June, 2027. So it will actually kick into gear and cost in fiscal 28.
Right.
Okay,
Questions or comments from any members of the AC?
yes, Linda Olson Pelkey.
Thank you. I'm just looking for some more clarity on the policy about the sick time and how that is changing. I was confused whether the value was being reduced or the hours being reduced by a third.
So
So
currently,
go over that. Thanks.
sure. Currently, townwide, all the employees have a $5,000 cap for buyout of sick time when they leave town service, unless they are terminated for cause. The union looked to be able to increase that benefit for employees who are leaving without being terminated for cause. So that's retirement, moving to another community, et cetera. And to have that be no longer capped at a dollar amount. So $5,000 based on their annual rate isn't a whole lot of hours. So the conversation was had around there's no cap on earning the number of hours. But if you're looking to buy out when you leave service, 2184 is the equivalent of 1 year's worth of hours that a firefighter would normally be scheduled for. And the cap on the buyout would be a third of that 2184, even if they had 6,000 hours on the books, for example. And so it's around 700 hours max times whatever their hourly rate is the new maximum that firefighters could get paid out upon retirement. The hope is that folks will not try to be out for an extended period of time as they go to retire and look to what would be termed burn their sick time before they leave, because that costs us more money if they're out sick as far as coverage goes. So that's again on the attendance incentive, particularly in the folks that have worked for the town longer and have a higher cost for us, that they would stay showing up to work and not be out for an extended period of time before they leave.
So is this a similar, are you attempting to negotiate this type of change with other employee unions?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I think Harry just
Al-
said Alec Lebovitz.
Yes.
Thank you, Harry and Dennis. Quick question for you, Ann, and thank you for being here tonight to present and answer questions. I wanted to follow up a little bit about the weekend shift differential.
Sure.
We had a long conversation about this back in July when we were considering a reserve fund transfer for fire department overtime funding. At that time, I think it was at least my impression that the shift differential may have been rolled out at the beginning of fiscal year 26. Is that the case?
We did not have a settled contract that was funded by town meetings, so we could not roll that out.
Okay, interesting. So the shift differential is not being paid at all up to this point?
Not been paid. So what will happen is, because this is a fiscal 25 through 27 agreement, let me just just looking at this. The weekend differential is effective on the first day of fiscal 27. So it would be July of next year that this would start. So there'd be no retro on this. The retros for employees, assuming this passes at town meeting in November, would only be the 2% for fiscal 25 and the 2% for fiscal 26. And obviously that's a half year retro. The other items, as I said, are all back end loaded either into fiscal 27 or on the last day of fiscal 27, in the hopes that we could give ourselves more lead time to sort of manage the fiscal nuances of the situation, we find ourselves in.
Okay, thank you for that. I will just flag that, at our conversation around the reserve fund transfer, one of the things that we talked at length with Charlie Young about was the fact that this shift differential was the town's effort to control the growth in overtime costs by reducing the need for OT shifts from fire department employees calling out on the weekends. And at that meeting, we had actually, maybe it may have just been me, but I would guess that others were under the misapprehension that some form of that differential had already been rolled out, because we had actually requested that Charlie come back this December to give us an update on trends in overtime utilization given the rollout of the shift differential. So that may represent just a miscommunication between the town and the advisory committee, or I may have just been personally under a misapprehension. But I did just want to flag that because I think we did discuss that at length back in July, and we are hopeful that this will be a good tool for us to use to reduce overtime cost growth. I'll just say we're looking forward to seeing how impactful this will be in FY27. And I think we'd like updates on the progress there in reducing OT utilization going forward.
So one of the things that we talked about is, yes, this is a cash incentive to have people not call out on the weekends. One of the commitments that the union gave us was to work to the best of their ability to work with their members to be like, listen, the folks who end up on what we call in HR is end up on sick notes because they've been out more than the attendance policy allows. That the union will be working with members to be like, basically to tell them to cut it out. That taking the single days on a sunny Friday, a sunny Saturday, or, if they're ski folks on a snowy Friday and Saturday to go skiing. I'm a beach person, so, calling out sick on a snow day just isn't my thing. But, working with the members for them to understand that this is part and parcel of the, the labor management relationship that, folks need to show up to work. Firefighters are scheduled to work 92 days a year out of 365. And that's, the schedule that they have and that they signed up for. And, the goal is that they're, aside from their contractual leave time, that they're coming in when they're scheduled to work.
Thank you.
Janice Khan.
Yes, and again, thank you, Anne, for being here. So the other incentives that had been put in place to try to lower overtime use, so the flexible days, those stay. So the chief doesn't have discretion over that. If a firefighter asks for a day, that is granted. So there are no changes to the things that were done in prior contexts?
I'm confused as to what you're asking.
Okay, so one of the issues was that there were, I think, 5 days that could be requested at any time and granted without the chief having to, look at how many people are working that day, whatever. I mean, that was also part of the overtime.
Right. So the 5 and 6 days request, so the 5 days in the winter and the 6 days during the summer, is still in place.
Okay, great.
We still have to staff that, and it's staffed with overtime. We also have the issue around, folks that are out on IOD. Currently, we have about 17 people out on injured on duty for various reasons, both short and long term. And, that has an impact as well. But looking at, to the extent possible is, aside from requesting time off and being granted, obviously IOD and long-term, either FMLA or sick leave, that the sort of single day bang outs be reduced. And then where the others can be done either through health and safety, for firefighters and how they do their work, looking at those things as well.
Okay, thank you.
That appears to be all the questions.
All right, then I think we're ready for a motion from the subcommittee, Harry.
Sure, we would move favorable action on funding this contract as presented.
Right, so that's favorable action on warrant article 2 to fund the ratified firefighters contract. Let me share my screen. Michael Berger,
Yes.
Harry Boers,
Yes.
Cliff Brown,
Yes.
Anthony Buono,
We are getting used to not being after Ben Birnbaum anymore.
did you vote? I didn't hear a vote.
Oh, I did. I voted yes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Elise Couture Stone,
Yes.
John Doggett,
Yes.
Harry Friedman,
Yes.
David Mark Goldstein,
Yes.
Neil Gordon,
Yes.
Perry Grossman,
Yes.
Kelly Hardebeck,
Yes.
Elisa Jonas,
Yes.
Janice Kahn,
Yes.
Brian Ladd,
Yes.
Alec Lebovitz,
Yes.
Carol Levin,
Yes.
Liz Linder,
Yes.
Pam Lodish,
Yes.
Jocelyn Murphy,
Yes.
Donnell O'Neill,
Yes.
Linda Olson Pelkey,
Yes.
Fran Perler,
Yes.
David Pollock,
Yes.
Carlos Ridwejo. Not here yet, perhaps. Margaret Robotham,
Yes.
Lee Selwyn,
I don't believe Lee is here, and Carlos, if he does come, will be late.
late, right? Christine Westfall.
Yes.
Okay, 25 in favor, none opposed, and no abstentions. We're going to recommend favorable action on warrant article 2. Thank you to the subcommittee. Thank you, Anne. So let's move on to warrant article 15. I'm not sure who's presenting for the subcommittee.
That's me, Dennis.
Go ahead, Alec.
All right, thank you. So warrant article 15 is a resolution that calls for Brookline to recognize and celebrate LGBTQIA+ Pride Month each June, and also urges the select board to acknowledge several other dates of importance to the community. I will note, for reference, there is an amended version of the warrant article that was crafted between the petitioners and the Human Services Subcommittee. You'll note that is available in the packet, a redlined version at the end of the report posted there. Just wanted to reference that because you will hear me make reference to the original version and the amended version going forward. The dates in the original version that are singled out for select board recognition include the International Transgender Day of Visibility, the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, the anniversary of the Stonewall riots, National Coming Out Day, and the Transgender Day of Remembrance. These are not separate celebrations, it should be noted, just date recognitions from the select board, or in the case of the amended article, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So during the petitioner presentation, lead petitioner Kevin McKenzie articulated the significance of the resolution, emphasized the need for the town to support the LGBTQ+ community, and this was particularly notable in light of recent actions taken by the federal government and several state governments throughout the country. It was pointed out that historically, while many of these observances have been led at the federal and state governmental levels, recent shifts in governmental attitudes may necessitate local communities to step up and take a more proactive role in asserting values of equality and respect. And that by recognizing the commemorative dates set forward in Warrant Article 15 and establishing a town pride celebration, Brookline would reaffirm its commitment to supporting the LGBTQ plus community against the rising challenges and political environment occurring nationwide. Subcommittee discussion touched on a number of topics. There were concerns raised by some members about the broad scope of Warrant Article 15 and the potential distraction that could cause from what is largely focused on a pride celebration that's more similar to some of the other heritage and group associated celebrations Brookline currently organizes. Some members of the subcommittee felt that this could lead to a conversation that would be more difficult around the equity between various cultural and social groups with the number of observances. And there was, in general, a strong sentiment that the resolution should focus more on the pride celebration aspect of its original draft. Chair Granoff, who regretfully could not be here this evening, proposed a new whereas clause that was added to the resolution with the consent of the petitioners, which states that the Commonwealth and the city of Boston, as well as many other municipalities in the U.S., recognize June as Pride Month and help to give some more logical flow and assert the existing precedent for Warrant Article 15. The subcommittee also discussed whether the number of commemorative days aimed at the select board should be limited in order to focus the resolution more specifically on Pride Month. It was, as I mentioned, expressed that there was concerns about the potential focus in the warrant article. And in addressing this concern, the subcommittee proposed and the petitioner agreed to remove the 7th therefore clause in the original draft, which is the clause that resolved town meeting recognize various occasions beyond the official Pride Month celebration. This was largely done to prevent redundancy and to minimize potential objections to the warrant article on being too broad. We did do some exploration of the potential financial implications of Warrant Article 15. This information came mainly from Director Gelano from the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations. And he estimated that a single event Pride Month celebration would incur costs for the town between $1,000 and $2,500 annually, which includes staff time expenses, coordination costs, refreshments, and materials for that celebration. These costs are very much in line with several of the other similar celebrations that are currently put on by the town. And Dr. Gelano further estimated that about 144 hours of staff time would be required to execute a celebration annually each year. And I'll just further note in concluding here that we felt, and the subcommittee expressed, that Warrant Article 15 was very much in keeping with the values of Brookline, that it's something that has value to LGBTQI plus residents, and particularly is poignant in light of the changing federal circumstances in the country. And finally, as I mentioned, you can see the redlined amended version at the end of the report. And I would just note for consideration this evening, we did receive a scope ruling from the moderator on some of the proposed changes that were out of scope. In particular, the moderator ruled that the proposed changes we made to resolve Clause 8 were beyond the scope of Warrant Article 15. And those changes redirected the resolution from town meeting urging the select board to recognize the individual days of commemoration I mentioned previously to directing that urging to the Commonwealth. Because the original resolution makes no reference beyond Brookline, the moderator did rule that to be out of scope. So when we get to a motion later this evening, based on our deliberation, we will likely not be taking up the subcommittee's original proposed motion, as we will need to address that one particular scope ruling. And I'll conclude there.
So before I go to Mr. McKenzie to add any comments from the petitioner's perspective, it's going to be really important Alec, when a motion comes up, do we have something that can be voted on that we can report in, that Lisa can report and that we can put in our packet? So if you have the ability to redline the red line into a thing that we can display later, that would be great.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. And I'll just note that the moderator did, in issuing his ruling, provide two alternatives that would be within scope. One being just a return to the original language. The other being, he provided another example that would shift the language from the town meeting urging the select board to officially recognize or commemorate these days, to the select board, or urging the select board rather to officially acknowledge the following occasions. So both the original language and, quote, the official acknowledgement language have already been judged to be within scope by the moderator. So with that, I'll conclude.
Okay. All right, Kevin, if you have anything you'd like to add, this would be a great time to do so.
Yes, I do. And I'll just note that I believe one of my co-petitioners, Bitsy Perlman, town meeting member, precinct 6, is here. So if it's okay if they add on after I finish. So I'm Kevin McKenzie, town meeting member, precinct 13, as well as the town's chair for the Commission for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations. I'm the lead petitioner on this warrant article, as well as several of the other openly LGBTQIA plus town meeting members in Brookline town meeting. One of the things I will note is I'm deeply appreciative of the advisory committee subcommittee's support and partnership on working to amend warrant article 15, and there are elements of it that I still do, and my co-petitioner and I believe are still friendly amendments. And also just best practices, whether that's changing the language, the wording from past resolutions that would say, make statements to town meeting urges things to just be most in practice with what authority town meeting actually has. And when it comes to those additional dates of commemoration, I personally feel, and I believe several of my co-petitioners as well, feel it is important that that town meeting, again, in the absence of federal leadership, still, and as we continue to see different state governments throughout the country, sort of undo those days as well. And so again, just Alec stated those, I'm not going to restate all of them. There are several of them. But again, when we say things like, I know the original language said proclaim, I'm totally open to the moderator suggestions in terms of asking the select board, whether it's, instead of proclaim, officially acknowledge or recognize, to give them the flexibility that they see fit to acknowledge those. And just personally, this is a resolution, right? It's not a bylaw, it's not a mandate. This is a resolution, it's an expression of what town meeting would like. It's not a demand of what is going to happen. And so the select board can implement this as they see fit. The same is true for the Office of Diversity, Equity, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations, as well as the Commission, which is flagged in it. Again, just to disclose of which I am the chair. We have also recently established a subcommittee for commemorations and observations, which would support the office in that work and advise the select board and the full commission on those issues as such. So as we drafted it, we did want to ensure flexibility for the bodies that would be impacted by it at town level down to board level, to allow them to implement it the way they see fit. Alec did mention that there could be a potential cost for a new celebration, and that is true, but we're likely years away from a new celebration taking place. Those take years of planning, expertise, collaboration. But what Brookline does have at the moment is sort of a hodgepodge of events that take place during LGBTQIA Pride Month that different town bodies or departments sponsor, whether that's the Public Works Department in conjunction with the school department to paint crosswalks outside different elementary schools each year, or whether it's the program in the library does. ODEICR has promoted that, but there, again, hasn't been that sort of centralized town celebration. So in the interim, a way that could be celebrated is just, I don't know if any of you had seen, and I shared it with the town meeting member reserve. I believe all of you are on it as AC members. I'm sorry I'm taking up so much of your time. I apologize. They shared an infographic of all the different events during Indigenous Peoples Day month, happening on different days beyond just a town celebration. A Pride Month celebration could just be sort of a centralized poster highlighting those existing events. It could be the aspiration that we one day work towards a family-friendly Pride Month celebration. It the way that the resolution is written, because again, it's a resolution, right? It's not a mandate. It's not a bylaw saying that this has to happen. It's done to give those who will make those decisions the flexibility to do that. And that includes the select board when it comes to acknowledging those different days and months of significance of the LGBTQI community, whether that be International Transgender Day Visibility or whether it be National Coming Out Day. Some different municipalities, specifically in the south of the country, will celebrate Pride instead of over the summer when the weather's more aggressive. Will actually have their Pride Month, or not sort of their Pride Month, but with their Pride parades in October because the weather is friendlier. Other places like Philadelphia, for example, will have National Coming Out Day sort of festivals that weekend. So there's options. But again, as Alex said, it's not calling for a different event for each of those dates. It's calling for the select board. And again, I know the original language said proclaim, and I really appreciated the subcommittee offering different suggestions. And again, I was personally willing to change to the state level. The moderator ruled out of scope. So I'd prefer to see it transfer to the select board now. However, they would like to acknowledge it, whether that be an announcement by a member at the beginning of a meeting, the week of, or the month of, whether that be something posted on the town calendar, where different events are happening. That this date is this thing, or whether that be the town social media accounts posting a certain thing, or whoever is in charge of or helps the town administrator with his newsletter acknowledging certain dates of observance. So part of the intention is to allow maximum flexibility for those who are responsible for, again, quote unquote, implementing something that, again, it's not a mandate, but a resolution. And the commission that I chair, the CDICR, our acronym changes every now and again, but CDICR, as it's been called, an advisory committee. We're here to support whether it's the select board, whether it's the town, whether it's anybody else, in ensuring that this gets implemented the way that they would like to see it implemented too. Whether that's writing the proclamations or the statements that they read annually, whether it's advising them on best practices, whatever it really is that they would like to see from us. And so that's where I'll leave it. And I know that, again, Bitsy's here, so is it okay if I just pass to Bitsy to see if they would like to add anything?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, everyone, for meeting, for hearing this. I don't think I have anything particularly long to add. Just, as the national environment has changed, sort of the places where Brookline isn't, I guess, acknowledging or officially acknowledging these things have become more clear. And so, I feel like in years past, like it would have been lovely to have this acknowledgement, but it wouldn't have been quite as meaningful. But especially with everything being under attack, having Brookline apart from Boston have, just like this is pride and this has a place in our community, I think would be particularly meaningful to, everyone in the community, but to people in schools in particular, to the children who live here. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for having us and debating this.
Thank you, Harry.
Danelle O'Neill.
Thank you, Harry. And thank you for putting forth this resolution, Kevin. So just a couple of things. I have a question. I just wanted a quick comment, Harry. I'm sorry. So it's tough every February to even have the select board members read out the names of the enslaved in Brookline. So down to the statements and all that, it's going to be difficult for the select board to do that unless they're prompted. So I will say that, or unless somebody from the community recognizes it during like a select board meeting or something like that. I had a question about and I asked this during the subcommittee meeting of where the bucket of money, the $1,000 to $2,500 would actually come from. Someone mentioned fundraising. Have that community looked into doing some fundraising and things like that. So I mean, resolutions you know, some resolutions cost money, obviously. And so there has to be a bucket of money for where it comes from. So I just want to know if there's any ideas of where that little bucket of money would come from. That's all. Thank you.
Is that to the petitioners? I'm happy to report from the subcommittee, but Danelle is on the
Sure.
subcommittee, so
Go
he-
ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, Alec, but if people are, I can also share. I spoke to Lloyd, Dr. Galliano earlier today too on this topic.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so again, it sort of depends on how the office decides to implement it. In the immediate short term, again, sort of my vision as lead petitioner, and I think co-petitioners also understand this, and the office is in the same place. Capacity is limited. It would probably be a couple fiscal years until, you know, that $2,000 cost could be incurred. But one thing I will just quickly note as chair of CDEICR is that there is money sort of somewhat affiliated with my commission that isn't touched or used by the commission itself that can get reallocated or whatever it might be. And since we've recently established the subcommittee, our new subcommittee on celebrations and observations, that might be an existing financial allocation made that could be tapped into by the office if the office itself deems that as wise. I won't tell the office what to do with it, right? They're the professionals, they know what to do. But I just wanted to note that there might be already some money that exists allocated that we're not tapping into.
Yeah, I guess I'm all right. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Danelle. Elise Couture Stone.
Hi, thank you. So Kevin, thank you so much for sharing this. I had a lot of questions before actually hearing Alex sort of reprisal of how your meeting went. I guess my questions to you are you know, as someone who knows and understands what it costs and the sort of person power it takes to put together, let's say, a large scale, really fun celebration that I think would be worthy of this cause. As you noted, you said that that might take a couple of years before we could do that. In the interim period, what would be meaningful, do you think, to this community that would show that for Brookline to show our support? And well, I'll leave it at that. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, was that a question for me as lead petitioner at least?
Yes.
Okay. I think you know, there are sort of 4 events that come to mind in town for me. We have the annual MLK Junior celebration. We have the annual Juneteenth celebration now, which is a wonderful event. Also in June, we have the annual Indigenous Peoples' Day celebration, and we have the annual AAPI Heritage Month celebration. And town meeting did recently pass a resolution to establish some form of an annual Jewish American Heritage Month resolution as well. But that hasn't sort of formalized the same way the other 4 have. So I think something that, again, one day would be not on the same level, but sort of in a similar spirit to those would be desirable for the community. And in the interim, I think there is that, again, that existing programming that exists, but isn't sort of formally promoted by the town itself or the diversity office as a package deal. That can be just sort of a, hey, we see you, we support you, here's the things we're doing to support you, and we're going to package it together for you so that you know what's happening. And just an asterisk I'll add to that briefly is that one element I think that's important for Pride Month and just LGBTQI individuals in general is to really indicate that a lot of the stuff is family friendly, right? Like LGBTQI individuals can be any age, whether that age is 7 or 75. It really can happen at any point in time. So offering something that everyone in the community can really come together around is important, whether that's painting a crosswalk, whether that's a book reading at the library, or whether it's a new event that we aspire to establish one day. But in the interim, I think sort of making sure that LGBTQIA residents and community members see that they're recognized and supported by the town, and then separately know what those events are, and that those allies in the community know what those events are that they can attend, is an important first step.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, I think then the way to interpret this resolution then would be to create an affirmative space across cultural organizations and institutions until the town can specifically host like a really great party. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, and if the town can get to that point for that really great party, quote unquote, great. And if not, there's some things in the meantime that we have that we can celebrate and elevate in the meantime.
Yeah, and I think, like Kevin said, the library does a lot of great stuff, and it would just be, nice to see the library's things highlighted at the digital displays around town, and at the sign in Brookline Village, just to pull it out in front of people.
Okay, thank you very much.
And that appears to be it for questions.
Okay, so Alec, do you have something to, if I make you a co-host, do you have something to project?
Yes, absolutely. Let me pull up this red line copy or blue line copy, as the case may be. I don't really know why it makes that distinction. But as I mentioned previously, the one amendment made at the subcommittee that was ruled out of scope occurs in this therefore be it resolved paragraph, where the original language was, quote, town meeting urges the select board to proclaim. The subcommittee amended that to, quote, town meeting urges the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to officially acknowledge the following occasions. As I mentioned up top, the moderator provided two potential remedies, one just being the restoration of the original language, the other being changing or reverting to the original language with the one additional change that to proclaim be struck and replaced with to officially acknowledge.
Well, that's what I'm going to recommend you change it to.
Okay. I'm happy to do that, and I'd be happy to offer that motion.
So sorry, just as lead petitioner, to be clear, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would that be that the town meeting urges the select board to officially acknowledge the following?
Correct. He's going to
Yeah.
edit that right now.
So
that
if you let
clear.
me do it on the, I accidentally accepted that one. So if we take that suggestion, then it would restore the original language and then simply strike proclaim and replace with officially acknowledge.
So in other words, if I may, so this is going to be the motion as distributed in our packets, with the exception of this one line change that we're making here.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Is that, hopefully that's clear to everyone on the call. So I'll let you make that motion and someone can second it.
So moved.
Hopefully we need a second because, all right,
Seconded.
so the motion is favorable action on warrant article 15 as amended by the subcommittee. And can you drop that sentence into the chat, Alex, so I can paste it in here with the additional recommendation from the moderator. Let me just wait for you to do that. Just that one sentence. Okay, thank you. I'm just gonna copy that, put it in here to change. And what that was bullet point. What paragraph number was that?
It's 8 in the original draft. It is 7 in the amended version. So that would be in therefore clause 7 in warrant article 15 as amended.
Clause 7(2). Okay, all right. Thank you so much for the waiting. So it's favorable action on warrant article 15 as amended by the subcommittee, with the additional recommendation from the moderator to change the language and therefore clause 7 to, quote, that town meeting urges the select board to officially acknowledge. And it was seconded. And we will now go to our voting. Michael,
Yes.
Harry B,
Yes.
Cliff,
Abstain.
Anthony,
Yes.
Elise,
Yes.
John,
Abstain.
Harry F,
Yes.
David Mark,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Elisa,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Alec,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Jocelyn. Maybe Jocelyn has stepped away. Right, Donnell,
Abstain.
Linda,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
I assume Carlos has not arrived yet, Harry?
Carlos has not arrived. Jocelyn is
I'm
here.
here. Sorry, I couldn't get my audio to work. I am voting yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so by a vote of 22 in favor with none opposed and 3 abstentions, we're going to recommend favorable action on warrant Article 15 as has been amended. Thank you very much to the subcommittee for all the work. Thank you to Mr. McKenzie and to Mix Perlman. And if we can move on to warrant article, well, we can move on to warrant article 17 if there's someone from the subcommittee who's prepared to present. I thought it was going to be Carlos, but he's not here. Are you prepared, Carol, or should we move on to warrant article 18 on the off chance that Carlos will be here?
I'd appreciate it if you moved on, and then I'll do it if he doesn't show up after that.
Okay, all right, let's move on to warrant article 18. Who's presenting that? Mr. Bors.
Okay, warrant article 18 is a resolution, and it's a resolution regarding the recordings of public meetings. Let me just say up front, and I apologize, I start this off with an egregious split infinitive. And in our recommendation, there's one typo, which I will point to when we get there. So is Heather Hamilton here?
I'm not seeing her.
She's
Yeah.
not on the list. She hasn't.
I don't see her.
Okay, she's a petitioner, and I figured she can probably speak to it better than I can, and Neil can chime in as well. So essentially what the resolution asks for is that recordings of meetings, boards, committees, commissions, get posted to the website where you can find them. If you request them, you can get them. They're there. There's a way to get them out. We do it regularly, as you'll notice with the subcommittee reports that were in the packet tonight. In there is a link to the recordings, and we're sort of used to it. Not all boards, committees, and commissions do that. And it may be that some of the smaller ones that don't meet as often aren't doing this as regularly, aren't as used to it, don't have as many people to do the work, don't have staff. There's a variety of things. The resolution doesn't really ask for anything new other than to say these recordings already exist, and since they already exist, can we just get them posted so that people can get to them? When we discussed this as a subcommittee, one of the things that we discussed was a concern that this would put extra work on town staff. Because it's easy to add a little here and a little there to town staff, and it's, death by 1,000 cuts. But what struck us also is, because we've done it, is that it's not that onerous a task. You're posting the minutes anyway, and all you're doing is cutting and posting the link to the recording that's already been done. So we thought that was pretty reasonable. We did change some of the wording in the recommendation, and you can see the markup here. A lot of it's more sort of for grammar and clarity. The one substantive portion is at the end, And that is that these would be posted, these videos would be posted, quote, and again, the typo is where we crossed out within 4 business, that should be within 4 business days. Days should have been crossed out also. And we added as soon as practicable, but no more than 10 days of the meeting. And there was a little bit of discussion. I will say most of the subcommittee, the chorus harmonized. There was one voice that was a little bit out of kilter, and I will confess it was mine, and that came to the 10 days. The way it's written is 10 days as opposed to 10 working days. And that was essentially to comport with the rules for posting minutes. What I had pointed out was if it's not working days, it could essentially be a week. So think of, hypothetically, someone is going to their daughter's wedding in Washington, D.C. and takes the week off just before the long weekend. That's 10 days used up right there, but it's only 1 working week. Other than that, we were all in agreement. We voted unanimously to recommend it with the changes. We don't think it is that hard to do. We suspect that once people get used to actually copying and pasting it into their minutes, they'll realize it's not that big a deal, and it really shouldn't put stress on town staff. And I think that's about it. If people on the subcommittee want to chime in their thoughts, and we also have the petitioner, Heather Hamilton, here.
Ms. Hamilton, would you like to add anything? I know you came in the middle, but you can trust that despite the fact that Harry didn't mention how much he likes the word practicable, he gave a good summary of the article.
Neil foisted it upon me.
I trust Harry as a fellow Precinct 3 representative. The only thing I would add is part of this I'm pushing because I really think the town needs to automate this. I frequently ask staff for the recording because I know it exists. And the problem with the current policy is you have to know that a recording exists and you have to know who to ask for it. And that's unfair. That's not in keeping with transparency. So Zoom has the recording. The admin account of the government Zoom has all of the recordings that have been uploaded to the cloud. The IT department just needs to automate this, and it's possible. So I'm pushing that. I'm also pushing that because I work at Big, and one of my initiatives that I took on because I feel very strongly about it is people need access. They need to be able to watch their local government in action. And so we're dedicated to downloading these meetings and putting them on our channels. And we can only do that if they're uploaded. I understand, the concern, and I definitely understand the concern about requiring staff to make these available, but these recordings are available an hour after the meeting concludes, and it is a copy and paste. And I really hope that the town does automate this so that it takes staff out of the equation altogether. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Dennis, the first question goes to you.
I actually have 2 questions. One, Heather, this is a leading question. You're very happy with how the advisory committee has complied with your requests for this so far, I hope.
Yes, very.
Okay. Now, my practical question is, during the subcommittee report, there was the repeated statement that this is not adding any new work. The recordings already exist, or very little new work. The recordings already exist, et cetera, et cetera. what about for a totally in-person meeting for which it was not recorded by Zoom? Is there the expectation that we're going to have to start recording them?
No.
Or is it only for recordings that exist? I haven't read the language in detail.
Right. As it's written, it is only for recordings that exist. It doesn't impose any new requirement that every board, committee, commission meeting, whether of substance or whether it's just
Start recording
more
if they're not
ministerial,
already.
that they bring in an owl and set that up, because then that would have certain IT and staff functions that would be required, but that's not in this.
That was a fun
Thank
I
you.
was not prepared to make.
Okay, thank you.
Neil Gordon.
Yeah, I just want one comment, and that's the notion, we hear this word uploading. So if you're hosting a Zoom meeting and you click the record button, right, it's there, it's uploaded, right? There is no uploading. There's no, figuring out how to put it on YouTube or anywhere else. The only thing you have to do is go back into the admin page, find the link to the recording, and paste it into the minutes.
The
That's
link
it.
is even emailed to you typically if you're the
Done.
host of the.
Right. Done. Right. Done and over. It exists. And the only thing you're doing is moving it from behind the curtain to in front of the curtain. And it takes about that long to do it. There's no burden. If you can't do minutes, right, if you can't find the recording to do your minutes and you need staff help, right, that's the same help. But to actually put a link to the recording in the minutes, that's an exceedingly light lift. I think there is no burden.
Yeah.
There's no burden,
I
and
would
there's no cost.
I would also suggest the possibility that for some of these smaller committees that meet less often, don't do minutes as often. And I think all of us know when we go to write minutes, sometimes we agonize about how much to put in the minutes. They're supposed to be, relatively descriptive, but they're not transcripts either. And, you think, how much do I have to put in? How much don't I have to put in? These are going to be long minutes. Maybe I'll wait till the weekend to get it done. But if you're putting in a link to the recording, that can spackle in a lot of the detail that you may not have to, key in the verbiage. And maybe after people start doing it, it just may make them feel more inclined to get the minutes done quicker as well.
Thank you. Perry Grossman.
Yeah, thanks for this, Heather. I support it. I wanted to ask a question for us for AC. Sometimes I find that the reports or the minutes are not published until the meeting or even the afternoon, the day of or afternoon before our AC meeting. So sometimes I have a hard time being at work and commuting home and getting my reading done of the report. So I'm wondering if this is a question to AC, not the petitioner, but if we could get our subcommittee recordings posted somewhere before the minutes or the report comes out. And I'm wondering if it's that tracker would be the best place for this, the tracker that Lisa puts together, or if there's some other public place that these recordings could go when they're available. Thanks.
Lisa, I don't know what the level of complexity is. I don't know how frequently you're updating that tracker.
I could certainly build that into, my day. I just would have to follow up after every subcommittee hearing and go to the 4 different Zoom accounts to find the correct one and just download the link, copy and paste the link. It sounds onerous, and it probably would be, but it's not impossible to do.
Right.
And I could in fact add it to that tracker, Perry. That's a really good idea. I could embed the link right in the subcommittee, listing when the meeting was held. I could certainly either add add a column there for the recording, which would then make it accessible 24 hours after the hearing.
Thanks. That would be great if it's possible, if it's not too much work. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Elise.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I think most of us probably think in this vein, but I think I just wanted to, I guess, comment and say that I think given that we are living in a time when our administration is restricting access to information, I think it's really important that we take a stand and make easily available the work that we're doing, and that our neighbors, our friends, community members can easily access our conversations. I mean, to Perry's point, I emailed even just today as our meeting was starting, Lisa, in a panic, like, oh my God, I have all these questions, but I don't want to take up all this time because I didn't have the time to read through in between my work day, picking up kids' dinner and all the things. So I think there are a lot of layers to this, but I think we should really work toward making access to information as easy as possible. Thank you.
David Pollock.
My question is along the same lines. I think that Perry's question and Lisa's sort of solution of getting all of our meetings into the tracker works for one board, but there's over 100. And I guess the obvious place for, and I imagine this might be where Heather's, excuse me, leading is automation, is that the links go back into the agenda center. And so if I wanted to see a meet, if I knew that there was a meeting of a subcommittee in September, on September 20th, I would go back to September 20th to that agenda. And then there would be a link that would be in the calendar, and then everything could be, that would be, that seems to me the one central place. And it goes along with what Town Hall IT did, creating the newer agenda center, which we all, town meeting freaked out when it switched from the old calendar. But then once people figured out what the new click was, I think it actually works a lot better, the new one.
Thank
So
you.
if there's a question there, it's sort of, is that what you were thinking, Heather?
Yes, I mean, what would be ideal is if the IT department worked with Zoom Government and got, it automated to populate, because I do like the new platform quite well. And this summer we had an intern at Big who wrote a code. I mean, he basically just asked ChatGPT to write a code to automate a process that went onto the town's website, looked for Zoom recordings, downloaded them, uploaded them, and then changed the format because Zoom recordings are in a file that our system doesn't recognize. So we have to reformat them and then upload them into Cablecast, which is a completely separate system and it's kind of archaic. I mean, he wrote this in a week. It's possible.
Thank you. Janice Kahn.
Hi, and hi, Heather. Good to see you. And I do look at the big recordings, so thank you for that public service. So David actually was on the track I was thinking of as well, that to me, it seems to me that what we do at AC is above and beyond, because the link is in minutes. And often people won't sit for a 2-hour meeting, but they can skim and then figure out, how to skim through the meeting to find what they want and, on it. And that would be true of the agenda too. So I wholeheartedly support what David's saying. I think that a meeting with no context is not as useful as one in some sort of context. And having it on the same, in where the agendas are would be a really kind of, I think, a good approach to giving the public a little bit more than just knowing that the select board are meeting on Tuesday, but really having a little bit more context. So I like David's idea a lot, and and your wanting to do this transparency is really also wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. John Doggett.
Hi, thanks, Harry. Heather, this is a great warrant article. I really appreciate you bringing it forward. I think it really would help improve transparency. I've got a question, and that is what is the retention period planned for these? And is there any cost over time that we would need to fund this for long term?
Interesting question. I'm gonna have to put my former select board hat on. I mean, I count these as public records. And so I think that they would fall under the public record guidance, and I believe that's 7 years. But that's really just, also about the contract between the town and Zoom. If that comes up for renewal, what the, data storage retention is. I can tell you, working at Big, I have downloaded so many of these meetings, but I actually don't list them because we don't want them to clog our YouTube channel. What I do is I post them on our cable channels. We have things dating back to 2010 still on our YouTube. So because of what we're doing on our side, we're acting kind of as a data retention as well for a lot of these meetings.
Thank you.
Dennis, that's it for questions.
All right, so Harry, would we have a motion from the subcommittee?
Sure, we're going to recommend favorable action on the article as amended and extend that strike mark the within 4 business days. And that's our motion, the amended version.
So the amended version simply says as soon as practical, but no more than 10 days is the.
It says as soon as practicable, but no more than 10 days. Yes.
Okay, great. So there's a motion from the subcommittee for favorable action on warrant article 18 as amended. Hey, Michael.
Yes.
Harry B.
Yes.
Cliff.
Abstain.
Anthony.
Yes.
Elise.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Harriet.
Yes.
David Mark.
Yes.
Neil.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Elisa.
Yes.
Janice.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Alec.
Yes.
Carol.
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
Jocelyn.
Yes.
Donnell.
Yes, and thank you, Heather.
Linda.
Yes.
Fran.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Margaret.
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
All right, so by a vote of 24 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention, we're going to recommend favorable action on warrant article 18. Thank you to the subcommittee. Thank you, Heather. Nice to see you again. And I believe, Carol, you're up because Carlos hasn't made it. So you're going to pitch in. You have to unmute.
Rat. Okay. So warrant article 17 is a resolution regarding tree preservation practices. And this resolution applies to trees that aren't street trees or trees that aren't on private property that are covered by other town bylaws already. So we had 2 meetings about this, and after the first meeting, during the first meeting, it became clear that there was an opportunity for collaboration between the petitioners and DPW. And they took a week or 2 weeks, I believe it was, to collaborate and came up with the revised warrant article that you see before you, which basically sets out procedures for public notice if a heritage tree, which is a tree on public property that isn't a street tree, is in danger of being taken down. And it sets out procedure for an arborist review and for procedures for notification of the public. And both the petitioners and the DPW, though I'll let them speak for themselves, are very satisfied with this outcome and feel that it goes a long ways. And there is a meeting of the minds as to what best practices would be. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, so for the petitioners, I see Karen, if you'd like to add anything to that report, go ahead. This would be a good opportunity.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Actually, don't have much to add here to answer any questions, if there are any, to sort of amplify what Carol was saying. It was really a wonderful opportunity to work with the Commissioner of Public Works and her team at the DPW. Phenomenal bunch of professionals, and I think we're all really happy with what we were able to put together as a group.
All right, Harry.
Well, it's open for questions.
Well, the first one was me, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's all right. As I'm not sure who was here at the start of the meeting, but town meeting member Sean Lynn Jones came and had a few observations about the resolution as presented or as amended, and everything that he mentioned is clearly a scrivener's error, which we can address with one question. And so I'm just going to ask it here on behalf of Mr. Lynn Jones, which is this sentence right here, if you can see it, isn't quite a sentence, and it appears to be combined with parts of the previous sentence and the parts of the sentence which follows. And it's the question for either the subcommittee or the petitioner, or whether or not it is appropriate to simply remove that as an editing error.
Sure, I can answer. I think there may have been some sort of administrative error on Sean's part. I actually have been rotating back and forth between the select board meeting as well and seeing Sean sort of overlap in Zoom. Those edits that he made didn't make it to my desk until this morning, and I had a full day. I can happily go back and review. Erin and I did do a lot of back and forth with the track changes of the various edits that we had made. I can go back through. I had told Sean I would check the minor error stuff. I have not had an opportunity to look at if it's a sentence or not a sentence yet.
Well, we're going to be making a vote tonight. So all of the objections that Sean raised, the original ones are just formula are issues that I can assure you are completely within the realm of the normal cleanups that we do when we're producing a motion, which is to take out this language at the end that says or take any action relative thereto, and a few other cleanups. I'm not worried about that at all. The only thing I'm worried about is this sentence right here, which is just not a sentence. And so if there's any possibility,
can you read it out
that we can
for me, Dennis? Only
Can you not
because
see it?
I'm on multiple devices, so the device that I'm looking at your meeting on is a smaller device.
Could I
It's
assist,
simply
Dennis? Because I think it's
Yes.
just missing a couple words. So let me it's Karen, it's just sort of like an incomplete thought.
Okay.
But I think, Aaron, it looks to me like it says the existing conditions plan along with their condition and rationale for removal. And that part is in the previous sentence. And the second part is in the sentence which follows. So it appears to me that it is redundant as part of a
Yeah,
copy and paste.
Exactly, because you have the following paragraph starts with the existing conditions plan, tree removal plan, and the tree planting plan shall all be made available, well, on the town's website. Now, this is actually,
And
the
the
trees,
previous sentence says that it'll be reviewed with the design review committee and the public at a public meeting.
at a
So
public,
my
exactly.
sense is that what I have highlighted should simply be deleted, and there would be no loss of substance and significantly improved clarity.
That is correct. It was rewritten to be, I think, the intention was to be a little more clear as to what would be on the plans, and then it would be reviewed at a public meeting.
Erin, if you're
Well-
fine with it, then we're absolutely fine with it. I told Sean in an email first thing that, well, when I saw it, I said that, you know, I really wanted to make sure that you guys were on board with it. And I didn't want to put a fire alarm on your side, in that I know you guys are so inundated with tons of things, and this is going to be protocol that you guys are putting in place. So if you're fine with changing the verbiage, then I'm completely fine with it. Again, in layman's terms, so that everyone's aware, the petitioners and the town are very much on the same page with the spirit of what we're trying to put in place here. And so if Erin's fine with it, like, let's go with it and make the
Right.
changes.
I think
Right. I'm not
Karen-
trying to be any more overly pedantic. It just seems like it's an opportunity to clean it up. And I generally don't like editing by committee, but this seemed like an obvious Scrivener's problem.
It's just a Scrivener's error. I think between the track changes back and forth, this was coming out because the previous sentence replaced
Okay.
it.
So we will follow up with that as a Scrivener's error in the reporting. I think it's obvious what's happening there. Harry, if you want to go to other questions or comments.
Margaret.
Thank you. So this resolution seems really well intentioned, like, what monster hates our tree canopy? And I get it. However, this seems like a classic tree law. This will be familiar to anybody familiar with Ezra Klein's thesis in abundance. My concern is overregulation that prevents progress. Ultimately, our built environment is necessitated to change with our community. And so I want to know from you, how does this regulation prevent it from being another stick in the mud that prevents Brookline from changing over time as it may need to? And just for context, when I say tree law, I'm referring to environmental and legal regulations that are often well-intentioned, but generally hinder the progress they're meant to support, such as building green infrastructure, et cetera.
Ms. Garrity, would you care to comment?
Sure. I don't think that this would prohibit growth at all. As far as the question that you're asking, it really is meant to engage more people in stewardship of shared communal natural resources and to increase transparency of when change is occurring.
Okay, so let's say, for example, it's like the Fisher Hill property right now, where there's a lot of conversations around what Brookline can do with that property. I've never been there, so I don't know what it looks like. For all intents and purposes, let's argue that there's a mature tree canopy there. And the determination is made to build a pool or senior housing or whatever the other options are for how that property can be used. If this resolution were to move forward, what would it look like for the town to use that property as passed by various committees and as passed by town meeting? What would this regulation mean for the team that is therefore responsible for developing that property?
I think you're asking a very vague and a very specific question at the same time. I think that the true goal of this resolution is to put a value set in place and on paper. And again, the true goal of this resolution, the spirit of it, is to increase transparency that will then increase engagement of the community. The specific case that we cite in this resolution has to do with a tree in Monmouth Park that, you know, was almost taken down and then wasn't, and really got the neighborhood involved because of the, you know, the transparency that neighbors were able to track down of what was happening with the tree. This isn't meant to stop progress by any stretch of the means. If anything, it's really intended to engage more community members in stewardship of shared natural community resources.
Commissioner, did you want to chime in? You had your hand up for a moment.
I just was gonna provide a little more information just with that particular scenario. I think and Karen did a great job answering that question. But I think Margaret, in that particular situation, with this resolution, so there'd be a couple things. One is if a healthy tree was being removed as part of a major capital project, then we would be looking to mitigate that tree loss on site or in the general vicinity in accordance with the tree protection bylaw. So that would be piece one. And before it was removed, in accordance with this resolution, the tree would be posted with a notice that let people know that that particular tree was going to be removed and why.
Okay, that's really helpful. Aaron, do you have like any insight into like materially how that would impact like operations to develop a space or to change something in Brookline? So an example would be like, let's look the one in Monmouth Park. Could you guys walk me through what the process looked like like in the past, and then what it would have looked like if this resolution were to pass? I'm trying to like visualize operationally what's different, and I'm not, it's not clear to me like what is actually happening with this piece of paper.
Sure. Okay. So what has happened in the past with a park design review process, and that's what this was. So the park was being renovated, and as part of the renovations, or as part of the design review process, which includes a design review committee and public notice, the landscape architects and the team look at the condition of all the trees. They talk about what and how to preserve and protect them. They look at the plan. In this particular case, it was some lawn improvements and replacement of a play structure, but also a very large old ash tree was determined by the town's arborist to be in significant decline. And it was discussed at these public design review committee meetings that the tree was being proposed for removal, the rationale for why, and it was communicated in several public meetings. However, fast forward to when we actually go to do the construction, like the whole process wraps up, we're going out for construction, and those that weren't involved in the process didn't know that that tree was coming out, and they wanted additional review on that tree to see what preservation measures could be taken to prolong the health and stability and viability of that tree. So what's being asked for here is, okay, when you do the design review processes, the conditions assessment, ultimately the meetings, we're going to be actually talking about the trees and what's removal, pull all of those out from the deck so it's one piece, so that people can go to the park website and get all of the information about any removals, transplants, planting. It's called out, and that the trees will be posted with information if they're being proposed for removal, with a QR code so that people can go to that information and see it there. So I think the scenario here was sort of twofold, and I think we can also talk about risk assessments, and that's something, you know, a little bit different and more involved. But some folks wouldn't necessarily be part of the design review because they're like, it's a little playground. The folks that are going to use that are going to participate. But there actually was a component of that project that other folks in the neighborhood wanted to know about and felt that they should know about. And so this is an additional way for us to post trees pull out information we know the community cares about and make it more accessible. And that may lead to more engagement and conversation about decisions that are being made. And in this case, and we also talked about third-party review. And so trees of a certain size, when we're looking at, we have a proposal from our certified arborists, and we have 2 certified arborists look at this, that we will bring in a third party to take a look at it, confer and work with our arborists to see if there are means and methods that would enable us to prolong the life of these trees and have a community conversation.
Do you currently use the third party right now in your process, or no? Is that an additional cost?
We often do use a third party for large trees, and here we're defining those as 32-inch or greater. So that has often been the case. It was not the case in this particular scenario as early as it would have been because we just had a change in staff.
Okay, thank you.
Alec Lebovitz.
Thank you, Harry. I just had a couple quick questions. One, I was curious, as a matter of policy, does every town capital improvement project have an associated standing design review committee?
Every parks and open space design review project does. So our projects do.
And those would be the projects presumably most likely to have an impact on mature trees?
Yes. I mean, there are school projects and there are other town ground projects as well that we're not part of those design processes always.
Okay, because I am wondering if there's a potential for a scenario to arise where we have a, say, lower cost capital improvement project that doesn't have a design review committee and it does have an impact on mature trees. And with the current wording of this resolution, it's not necessarily clear that if that were the case, the new administrative procedures would allow for the full transparency and availability of public engagement on that process. So I'd be curious maybe to down the line confirm with other departments that they follow those same protocols to make sure that this procedure is effective across all departments. I was also curious, there's a mention in this new resolution about posting the 14-day notice on the town website. Has there been any thought given to where on the town website that would be posted?
So the notice is actually posted on the tree itself.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the new language also includes and publication on the town website, including the rationale for removal. So I guess I'm curious if that would be hosted on DPW's page or elsewhere.
Yeah. No, that's going to be on the DPW, forestry, like parks and open space, forestry section. But these are, I mean, I think that, so there's the design review component, and then there will be trees that my arborists determine are hazardous and need to come out because they're in significant decline. They've reached the end of their, successful and effective life. They're looking at targets such as sidewalks, roads, tot lots. And those trees outside on our property, outside of the design review process, would still be posted with the rationale.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Yes. So I think this resolution also, will need to be shared with the school committee and public buildings so that they, understand the resolution, because, we can only post the work that's under our jurisdiction.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks so much, Aaron. And I just close by thanking the petitioners for their hard work on this. And particularly for their collaboration with the subcommittee and with Commissioner Shute and the DPW. I think the version in front of us tonight is vastly improved from the original version. So I just thank you all for your hard work on that.
Thank you. Janice Kahn.
Yes, thank you. So I have just another perspective, another comment is that often in design reviews, such as in a park, that you have the user group typically involved. But in the case of, say, street trees, you know, that's not necessarily the case. It's the people walking by. And so it's really important to have these trees, if they're going to come down, have it be posted, allow people who, you know, are not maybe considered the user group, also aware of it. And I can just tell you, I live on the border of Newton, and this happened actually in my neighborhood on the Newton side, where there was a street tree that was posted as coming down. You know, a developer wanted to bring it down, but people walking by felt it had value as a street tree with a canopy and with, you know, it enhanced the value of the street. It did not, to respond to a little bit to Margaret, it did not prevent the development from happening. The development happened, but it also preserved the tree. And so it was really a kind of win-win. And I think that's really what we're aiming for here, is to come to a win-win. And so so just to give another sort of perspective on this, on the value of doing this resolution. And I thank the petitioners for working so well with the town and with the subcommittee as well for this resolution. So.
Thank you. Dennis, that's it for questions and comments.
All right, so we're going to move to motion.
Move that the advisory committee approve warrant article 17 as amended.
So that's a motion for favorable action on warrant article 17 as amended, with a note when we're transmitting this to for the combined reports and to the moderator, that that third sentence that we displayed is removed as a scrivener's error. And there's a couple of other minor scrivener's errors that were mentioned earlier, and I can follow up with Carlos afterwards. That includes the correct title for the forestry manager, and the rearranging it to be in the form of a motion rather than in the form of a the sort of original warrant article. So share screen. We have a motion for favorable action on warrant article 17. Michael.
Yes.
Harry B.
Yes.
Cliff.
Abstain.
Elise.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Harry F.
Yes.
David Mark.
Yes.
Neil.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Elisa.
Yes.
Janice.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Alec.
Yes.
Carol.
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
Jocelyn.
Yes.
Donnell. I don't hear Donnell. Linda.
Yes.
Fran.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Margaret.
No.
Christine.
Abstain.
All right, and it was Donnell here.
Donnell is here, yes, and he's now unmuted.
Sorry about that.
And at your vote, Donnell, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, great, thank you. Okay, so 21 in favor, 1 opposed, and 2 abstentions. We're going to recommend favorable action on the amended version of warrant article 17. So thank you to the subcommittee, thanks to town staff, thanks to the petitioner. Karen, I apologize. I normally give the petitioner the chance for the last word before the vote, and I failed to do that. but hopefully you're happy with the outcome.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so
Nevertheless,
much.
So Harry, we have announcements about
Yes.
upcoming schedule.
So the schedule is a bit of a work in progress, but it appears that we will not meet this coming Thursday, the 23rd. So Lisa, if that date has been posted, please cancel. We will meet Tuesday, October 28th, which is a week from tonight. It will be virtual. I believe what we're doing is warrant Article 3 on the budget, assuming warrant Article 3 is ready. And I believe we will be doing warrant Article 19 regarding the 25th Amendment. So Cliff, if you could make sure that the petitioners for warrant Article 19 are aware that we're doing that. We are not planning on meeting Thursday, October 30. And then in the first week of November, we will be meeting on November 4. We will be doing warrant Article 8 on lighting, assuming it is moved. We'll be doing warrant Article 7 on Clark Road, God willing. And we will be going into executive session regarding a litigation matter. And then right now for Thursday, and that meeting will be live or hybrid. And then on Thursday, November 6th, right now, all I have is warrant Article 10 on renaming a baseball field, and presumably anything else that we haven't gotten to by then.
Thank you, Harry. Please note what Lisa dropped in the chat about the deadline for October 28th for items that we have voted on already, and that's several at this point. Write-ups for the combined reports are due to me so that I have a chance to do editing to get them to Melissa in time for their publishing in the first mailing of the combined reports. So please don't make me cranky. I want to try to get through that as quickly as possible. And I think that's everything.
Dennis?
We'll see. Yes.
Dennis, I know that the town is not going to move on Article 5, but do we need to vote no action on that? And where are we going to put it on the calendar?
I guess we could do that on Tuesday, a week from today.
It just needs to be posted
Yeah,
appropriately.
Lisa.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Lisa, can you add that warrant Article 5?
Where are we
next
putting,
Tuesday.
where are we adding 5?
Next Tuesday. It'll be a 2-minute
Gotcha. Okay.
Dennis?
pro forma vote. Yes?
I'm just sort of curious. If at town meeting, the moderator says nobody has moved warrant Article 5, I'm going on to warrant Article 6, is our vote necessary or does it need to be there on the record?
I think that it's like the belt and suspenders thing, just in the off chance that there is a motion that is made. We generally vote no action just to have that.
Very good, thank you.
We always take a position on Article 1.
Right.
Even when there are no unpaid bills.
Right. So it'll take, but we're not going to get, nobody's going to get up and speak on it, I assume. So we're not going to spend any time on it at town meeting. All right, Carol, I will follow up with you and Carlos about the small Scrivener's changes to the article tonight. And then I think that's everything for this week.
Dennis, I'll reach out to you about 7 and 8 scheduling.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, can we do it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, goodbye.
Good night.
Good night.